Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Why the Work Institute, our quick 30-minute webinar where we will be answering all types of great questions about the partnership with the Work Institute. Today we're going to be covering questions such as what type of research do we complete, why is it so successful, why do many companies, including Fortune 500s, partner with the Work Institute, and many, many more. So I hope you're excited. Again, we're going to cover all this in a pretty quick 30-minute demonstration. I do encourage you to ask questions when we get to the end of our webinar to make sure we get through all the information that you're so excited to hear about. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and hop into our agenda. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to go through several things here in this 30 minutes. But the first thing, and most importantly, is we're going to talk about you. Now, in this type of a demonstration, of course, it will be rhetorical, but it's so important that you understand the Work Institute's primary concern is making sure that we best understand our partners. So anytime that you would talk with our organization about a specific research project that you're interested in, our first question or first comment is tell us about you. Then we'll get into a little bit more about who the Work Institute is, what makes us different, how do you build a foundation for your employee feedback models, our approach, how do we report your data, most importantly, how do we take action, and of course at the end we'll run through some very high-level information about pricing and implementation. So let's hop right in. As I mentioned earlier, step one is us learning more about you. Why are you considering workforce research? We want to know the details. What has brought this to light? Why is there urgency around it now? How can we understand more about your organization? Of course, what are you looking for in a research partner? How are you going to measure success? How do you currently monetize turnover or engagement? Do you have a statistic you're currently using? And lastly, and perhaps most high level, is what are your goals for this project? How do we know that this project will be looked at as a success? Because as your partner, we want to make sure we're helping you achieve your goals. Now, who is the Work Institute? As you see here from the title, we're an industry leader. We've been around since 2000, founded by Dr. Thomas Mahan, and we're located here in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee. A few key things about a partnership with the Work Institute that's helped us be so successful is using our proven research principles, making the data available to our partners 24/7, 365, providing you first-class support through a primary point of contact that helps you analyze, implement, and facilitate your research, and also looking at your research not only through the behavioral lens, but through a financial lens as well. How do we make this information relevant to more than just your HR department? Well, putting your research through a financial lens will help to give you that detail and give you the credibility to talk with other groups within your organization. And lastly, a high level is that we've been trusted by over 400 organizations since our beginning back in 2000, and several of those being Fortune 500 organizations. Now, for behavior experts, to tell you more about the different types of research the Work Institute completes, you'll see here that it all surrounds the overall employee experience. Things such as recruitment interviews, onboarding interviews, stay interviews, risk assessments, special studies, and of course, exit interviews. So I'll ask that rhetorical question again as to why are you here? Perhaps there are things in your organization right now around turnover, around retention, around engagement of your employees. Well, there are many different ways that you can attack that research and form a plan to improve the current situation at your business. How do we build a better workplace? Well, we're going to talk through more of that today and help specify what some of these types of research really are and how do we make them useful for your organization. This is our humble brag slide, or maybe it's not so humble, but we've been fortunate to partner with many great organizations over the years. This is a small sample of companies that we have worked with, and as you'll see, it really crosses many different industries. We've worked, of course, in healthcare, automotive, financial, retail, telecommunications. You name the industry, the Work Institute has spent some time learning more through our partnerships. Now, what has helped us be so successful and what has brought these big names that you saw previously to the Work Institute is our unique approach. Now, it sounds so simple, but the first part of our research is starting by asking why. And when we get into the questionnaire here in a minute, I'll show you more about how this why methodology is so beneficial and so effective within each of our workforce research products. To back up just a little bit, the first thing you need to know about the Work Institute is that we're a thought leader. Our managing director, our founders, they speak at different conferences. They're sought out by organizations for their guidance and really understanding where is this workforce research industry, where is it heading, how can it be used most effectively. And so we're proud that people come to us and really look to our blogs and conference speaking engagements as a thought leader in the industry. Now, what helps us, back to this mixed method and why methodology approach, is combining both the qualitative and quantitative research methods within each of our projects. It's about more than providing you a rating. By asking why and giving you those actionable details, the mixed method approach is proven to uncover the actionable details that you're looking for. As I mentioned earlier, we give you the first-class support, and the decision support really includes both our online web tool where you have access to your information 24/7, 365, but also you really have an expert partnering with you on the back end through a client services director that helps to implement, analyze, and facilitate your research. Lastly, it's all about measurable results. We don't simply hand you the information and walk away, pat you on the back and say good luck. No, we're a partner within this process. Your success is our success. So in order to help measure the success of this project, we want to help facilitate action planning and look at the ongoing results and impacts that your specific research has to your organization. Now, in order to really build that foundation and really see the power from your research, it's important to understand 4 key types of projects that the Work Institute currently partners with organizations to complete, but also just 4 best practices that organizations implement to make sure they are talking to their employees throughout the entire employee life cycle. Now, with every one of our partners, it's a little different. With the Work Institute, we pride ourselves on being able to customize and to better understand each individual partner that we have. So as it mentions here, timing is everything. And what we mean by timing is everything is your organization may have a different issue than another organization. So in order to understand when we should speak to your workforce, we have to better understand what's happening within your retention, within your engagement. Are there specific groups that we need to talk to? And from there, what type of research project do we need to implement? As you see here, 4 of these key pillars are the onboarding studies, stay interviews, engagement studies, and exit interviews. I'm going to hop through each of these specific research projects to give you more information on the details of how these work most effectively. But in order to build that full feedback cycle that the Work Institute talks about, these 4 types of research are commonly used to help our partners increase engagement and reduce retention. Now, for onboarding studies, It's been shown that employees who have a great experience in their first 90 days are 10 times more likely to stay longer than those with a poor experience. I think we've all heard or been in that ourselves, where you come to your first day at work and guess what? There's no computer. You don't know where your boss sits. They don't even show you where the bathroom is. So it's important to have an onboarding study so your employees can provide feedback and let you know the successes, what you did well in your onboarding process, but also what are those opportunities? What can we consider further in order to improve the onboarding process and make sure that we're ramping up that employee to set them up for success as they join your organization. Now you'll see a statistic here in the blue and black that 46% of new hires leave their jobs within the first year. That is a stunning statistic. If you think about what your employee spends to recruit people to your organization, and on average 46% of new hires leave within the first 12 months, not only is that a significant financial investment that's walking out the door, but what a headache on the organization overall from a re-recruitment standpoint. So by having an onboarding study and better ramping up your new employees, then we can help reduce the turnover within that first year. But in order to get there, you have to ask your employees how they feel about their experience. The next study we're going to talk about is our engagement studies. Now we've all heard of an engagement study. It's been the buzzword for years now. But the funny part is engagement has been stagnant, as our managing director talks about, for almost 20 years now. If you look at the statistics of how the U.S. workforce is engaged, there hasn't been as much movement as you may think. Well, one statistic that we cite here at the bottom is that 75% of leaders have no engagement plan or strategy, even though 90% say it impacts the business. So the other statistic we share here is that 84% of managers don't know how to accurately measure key indicators for engagement. So what this is telling us is that people recognize engagement is important. It's pretty widely adopted that there needs to be some type of process to improve your engagement, but ultimately many organizations don't know how to specifically approach this topic. So in order to better understand your employees, whereas with onboarding we're talking to them, say in the first 90, 120 days of joining your organization, engagement is a great way to talk to your entire organization to get a better idea of how they feel about their employment experience. Now you might be asking yourself, Mark, well, what specifically are you talking about? We're talking about things such as their supervisor, the organization overall, support that they have to do their job. But ultimately, with each client and the conversations that we have with our potential client to uncover where key pain points or key things they're concerned about, that helps dictate where the Work Institute can make recommendations on certain topics that we would cover. Because again, there isn't a cookie-cutter approach that works for every company. So by us better understanding you, we can make that custom recommendation for what will work best within your organization. Heading on to our third type of research project, we have the stay interviews. Now stay interviews have really become popular here over the last few years because they have proven to be a great way to understand the intent to stay within your organization. The statistics we have here are 47% of managers say they know a lot about their people, while only 23% of employees agree. Now how funny is that? Of course the managers think they know the answers, but it's really based off of their gut instinct oftentimes. It's not around actually talking to the employees. Well, in order to figure out how they feel about their jobs and what that intent to stay is, it's important to not only ask them, but to use a proven research expert to get to the bottom of why they would want to stay or potentially leave your organization. Now, a meta-analysis done many years ago proved that an $8 an hour employee will cost a company $5,000 in turnover costs. So think to yourself, how many people left your organization last year? Now, once that number comes into mind, I bet most of your employees are making more than $8 an hour. But just to be conservative, let's multiply that number by $5,000. That dollar amount starts to speak to that C-suite or to those people who are trying to get approval for a research project. Now again, this is not a Work Institute number. This turnover cost isn't something we inflate for shock and awe reasons. In fact, most people will actually predict that your turnover cost is even higher. Now, with partnerships that we've had in the past, say with a healthcare organization or with some highly trained, highly technical people, turnover cost increases even more. Now, with the 33% turnover cost, and that's honestly based off of that $8 an hour employee's annual salary, 1/3 of that being $5,000, think about your employees. Think about what that average salary is at your organization, and think of the 33% cost that's associated with replacing that individual. Again, these numbers can get incredibly high, and until organizations start to wrap their head around these high turnover costs, then money is simply walking out the door. In order to negate that and reduce that dollar amount, it's important to partner with a company who not only understands you, but can help understand your employees and help drive engagement higher and retention to the appropriate measurements. Now, with exit interviews, this really has been the most popular form of receiving feedback from people who have been in your organization. It's been proven over the years that exit interviews really get to why people have left your organization if that research is done properly. As you see here, this statistic that pops up, turnover costs as much as 150% of that replaced worker's pay. Again, many partners that we work with are estimating their turnover costs being as high as 150%. Now, while we typically quote that 1/3 of annual salary, just think of what your hard turnover costs would be. Now, with exit interviews, the Work Institute takes a unique approach, a research-proven approach, to make sure that we're uncovering and understanding why people left your organization. Now, 40% of those reasons for leaving will be different between an external and an internal exit interview. But also what's important to remember and important to understand is research also shows that an exit interview performed at least 2 weeks after someone has left your organization will bring about that same number, 40% of reasons for leaving will change between at least 2 weeks later versus the last day of employment. If you think to yourself, why would that be, Mark? Well, ultimately, that person has probably started their new job. They're no longer working under that previous supervisor. And in many cases, they've received their last paycheck to where they feel more comfortable having this exit interview conversation. Now, I've gone through these pretty quickly in a very high level to give a little background on each of the projects. But we're going to talk through some workforce research musts and some characteristics to each of these studies to how you can make them most effective by partnering with the Work Institute. As you see here, the workforce research must that we have is, of course, using your proven research principles, making sure that there is a proper communication ahead of time, using a sound questionnaire design that's proven, having a skilled research execution, So partnering with an organization that has the resources, that has the ability to contact these people when most appropriate. Now, I think we also have someone that's not muted on the other end of the line, so if you can, please make sure your line is muted. Continuing on, we also have detailed reporting and analysis that's most important to your research, and having an action plan. We can collect this information all day long and have all this wonderful feedback, but if you as a research partner aren't ready to act on that research, then we're missing the most important piece to this puzzle. More characteristics on our specific types of research. So whether you're doing an onboarding interview, an engagement study, a stay interview, or an exit interview, the Work Institute focuses around 7 to 10 open-ended questions. And really you could call it 7 to 10 open-ended topics. Now this open-ended approach allows your employees to elaborate more on what's important to them. It's vital that you don't use a research questionnaire that's asking 25, 30, 40 questions, because typically those are very leading, and they not only lead your employee to a specific answer, they're also leading your employee to feedback fatigue. And towards the end of those research interviews, the details will drop if you use too many topics. So by using this proven 7 to 10 open-ended question, we are also double probing for specificity within each of those topics. I'll show you an example of that here in just a second. Now the timing, we've proven that this interview should be between 12 to 15 minutes ideally. This 12 to 15 minutes helps us get the actionable details that you're looking for within those 7 to 10 open-ended questions. And also that 12 to 15 minutes allows for the employee to be involved in that conversation, providing detail without getting that feedback fatigue that we're talking about, which may occur further down the line within an interview. Now we're always quick to point out that we will stay on the phone with them, or they can complete their web interview for as long ultimately as it takes, but our research has proven this 12 to 15 minutes is the appropriate time length. Now we use up to 6 outbound phone calls per employee in each of our different research projects, or we agree upon a number of emails that we'll send your exited employee or your current employee. But this 6 outbound calls helps to drive response rates. And while collecting the information the appropriate way is important for the validity of the data, it's also important for your response rates as well, because we want to make sure we're collecting as much actionable feedback as possible. Now, when partnering with the Work Institute, your organization is also allowing for our behavioral interviewers to conduct this conversation with your employee. These people are trained to make sure that this conversation stays open-ended. They're getting those actionable details that you're looking for. They're probing further within each of those topics, and ultimately getting, again, the actionable detail that makes this research so valuable. And of course, it's important for you to consider this external third party. Now here's a quick example of the questionnaire and this double probing. So on a scale of excellent, very good, good, fair, poor, how would you rate Company X as an employer? Now if that person were to respond with excellent, fair, or poor, we follow up with why, and then probe for specificity, asking which is most important. If they were to respond very good or good, we ask why and what it would take to earn an excellent rating. And furthermore, probing for specificity and asking which reason they gave us is most important. Again, this is why the methodology is so important. The open-ended approach doesn't lead the employee or exit employee and allows them to tell us what is most important to them. Now, not only do we collect all this great information, but we give it to you in an industry-leading reporting tool that allows you to look at your information in several different ways. You'll see to the right we note that we give you response rates, cost of turnover. We also give you re-recruitment opportunities if someone were to say they're interested in returning to your organization. And we include knowledge of fraud and unethical practices through a compliance question that is typically included in many of the research projects that we implement. As you see here from the visual, these are very high-level visuals that are provided in one portion of our reporting tool. But the great part is that it drills down even further, and we customize queries to let you look at your individual in different levels, or look at your individual organization through different levels. So as you can see in the visual there to the right, they're comparing different facilities. So let's say your organization has many facilities or regions or supervisors or performance ratings or any way you would like to segment your information. The Work Institute can partner with you and help you with that drill down capability to continue making this information more and more valuable. As it mentions here, correlate and compare research to give you workforce intelligence. This employee-centric model that we use also allows on the back end for us to give you these different variables, again, allowing you to drill further within your specific project. Where this really gets fun is how you can also see verbatim comments. Specifics as to what your employee or exited employee is saying within the research, our behavioral interviewer is documenting that within the tool, and through our reporting tool, you can pull up specific comments that fall into specific coding groups. So based on how your employee were to respond, if they said they left because they were going to make more money elsewhere, then we would code that under compensation, and you could come into the reporting tool and see why people left for compensation and get the specific details and verbatim comments relevant to that individual topic. Now, as I mentioned earlier, and again, we're flying through this, but the most important thing that you can do as a partner and to drive your engagement higher and reduce your turnover is taking action on the research. Now, our proven techniques will uncover great information in specific areas of success and opportunity through each project. So we want to help you by finding out what can you change immediately, what needs further investigation, what are the things that we're going to go act on so we can make commitments, follow through on those commitments, and continue to track the progress, results, and continue to show how we are improving and improving the ultimate workforce experience at your specific organization. As we note there in the bottom, action planning boosts employee engagement partly because the process itself demonstrates the opinion of each person on the team count. So action planning is the most vital part once the research has been collected. Now, our simple pricing also allows for our partners to have a very clear, transparent idea of what this investment really looks like as you partner with the Work Institute. So we build that with two parts. There is a one-time implementation and then a per-record charge that you, depending on how many people you would send the Work Institute. Of course, if you'd like more information after this, I'll pull my contact information up so I can give you the specifics around our pricing, but it's important for you to know how simple we keep the pricing and how we believe in a transparent model all the way from how we collect the information, how it's reported to you, even into the ultimate pricing and billing aspect of the partnership. Now, what does it involve? How long does it take to get started? Our average implementation takes 4 weeks, and that's 2 weeks for you, the partner, to work through these 3 key milestones: the questionnaire, the first data file, and the communication materials, how we will communicate this project to your current or former employees. Now, we always point out that if you all are ready to make these decisions quickly, to approve a questionnaire, to build that first data file, and approve the communication templates that we send, this process can be even quicker, but to give you a general idea, about 4 weeks is that implementation process. That sums up our quick 30-minute webinar on Why the Work Institute. I hope everyone on the call has found this beneficial for better understanding how a partnership works, why the Work Institute has been so successful in its partnerships in the past, why organizations continue to seek out the Work Institute as a research partner to better improve their engagement, reduce their turnover, and build a better workplace. Because at the Work Institute, your success really is our success. And we take seriously your engagement, your retention, and how we can build the proper strategy to help your specific organization. Here's my contact information here at the bottom. You'll see my name, a couple phone numbers, and email address. Feel free to contact me afterwards if you'd like more information on, say, the entire questionnaire or specific pricing as to what it would cost for your organization. Or if you'd simply like to talk about what you're currently doing and how you feel that could be improved. At the Work Institute, we love having those conversations, of course, how we can help your specific organization meet its goals. That concludes our quick 30-minute webinar on Why the Work Institute. And I know we're up against our time, but I'd like to open it up if anyone has any specific questions as to what we've covered here today. Going once? Going twice? All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining this afternoon. As I mentioned, please feel free to reach out to me with more questions as they come along. But I appreciate your time and look forward to speaking again in the future. Thank you so much.